Hi, and welcome back to day 9 of the Augusta video sew along. Today we'll be sewing up and setting our long sleeves. If you are making the short sleeve version, you can skip this lesson as we'll be covering it next. So with that, let's dive in. Had a little wardrobe change today. Apologize for not wearing the garment we're making. We had a cold snap and it's a little chilly in my upstairs, so it's sweater season. All right, so for our long sleeve, we're going to need our top or dress. This is the dress in this case, and our 2 long sleeves. You can set the top aside for now, and we'll just be working with our sleeves. All right, you can see here that I have 2 opposite sleeves. Here we have 1 notch for the front, 1 notch for the front, 2 notches for the back, and 2 notches for the back. So we're going to start by folding one underarm over to meet the other. And we want the right sides together. So the right sides are facing each other. And then do that for the other. Now we have 2 opposite sleeves. I have a very shifty linen here. So I'm going to pin one end. There we go. Go up and pin the other. And then I pin centers out. And repeat this for the other sleeve. And I always recommend pinning the 2 sleeves at the same time, because if you're using a garment fabric that doesn't have 2 opposite sides like mine does, a right and a wrong side, if it's like a solid or yarn dye or something like that, it can be very easy to end up with 2 identical sleeves, and that's not going to wear or set very well. Now that both of our sleeves are set, we're going to head over to the machine and we're going to stitch on our 1/2 inch seam line, just from one edge to the other. So let's go do that now. All right. Align your sleeve. I back tack here at the top, remove my pin, and I also back tack at the bottom. Then we're going to do the other sleeve. So with the pins right side up so I can take them out easier. And when you're shoving one piece under the foot without cutting the other, that's called chaining. It's a really good way to save time and thread. You can see how shifty my fabric is. Another back tack, and then clip your threads. Now we need to finish the seams, which I'm going to do with a serger. Now we need to turn our sleeves so the right side's facing out. Then grab your sleeve roll and insert it into one of the sleeves. We need to press our seam allowance towards the back of the sleeve. So that is, again, the side that has the 2 notches. Grab your iron and give your seam line a press. Set that sleeve aside, and then we'll do the next sleeve. Again, towards the back, so that's the side with 2 notches. And just slide the seam roll down as you press. You can press without a sleeve roll. It's going to be hard, and you'll likely have a crease where you kind of press the sleeve in half, but it can be done. The next thing we're going to do, and I realize now in the instruction booklet, we did this before we sewed the side seam, but you can do this step now or then, is we're going to put in 2 lines of basting stitches between the front and back notches. And what this does is allows you to gather the sleeve head slightly to ease it into the armhole. I'm going to set our basting stitches at 3/8 from the cut edge and 5/8 from the cut edge. And the reason for this is that our seam line will go between it at a 1/2 inch, and having the basting stitches on either side makes it so that you're less likely to get tucks from things moving around. So let's head over to the machine and pop those in. If your machine has a free arm, remove your table to access that. Change your stitch length to a basting stitch. And align your sleeve cap. See, here I am 3/8 of an inch from the cut edge. And we're just going to stitch from the first notch, the single notch, stopping at the double notch. We're going to raise our needle, and we're going to leave a thread tail. You're going to need that to yank on later. Now for our second row of stitches, same thing, start at first notch, 5/8 inch from the cut edge, and stitch around. Again, leave a thread tail. And here you can see what that looks like up close. So our seam line is going to end up right between these 2 threads. So these will hold things in place as we sew. So repeat that for your second sleeve. All right, so here we have our sleeves. I'm going to separate the thread tails, the ones on the inside. I'm going to just tuck on the inside and straighten out the ones on the outside. I just like to keep things organized. You don't technically need to do that. Now we're going to set our sleeves aside and grab our bodice. We're going to turn that inside out. You can tell I didn't put the collar on this one yet. Just pretend I did. All right, now here we have our armhole. There's a slight difference between the armhole of the two sizes because they're not drafted off the same block. We don't draft one and then grade it up into that size. We have two completely different drafts for the 0 to 18 and the 14 to 30. So here's where that's different. On both, we have our underarm seam, a single notch for the front, and a double notch for the back. On the 0 to 18, which is what I'm making, the top notch on your sleeve is going to align with the yoke seam. On the 14 to 30, there will be another notch on the yoke, and that's where your top sleeve notch will align. And that's just because we had a different curve for the two sleeves, so the match points are slightly different. So, find your sleeve with the single notch on this side. Here we have single notch, double notch, double notch, and we're going to insert that right side out into the sleeve. So now here you can see we have the right sides of the body and the sleeve facing. So start by pinning the underarm. Pin your single notch. Then I like to just pin between. Pin your double notch. And pin between. Then again, 0 to 18, the top notch on the sleeve is going to align with the yoke seam. If you have the 14 to 30, this notch will align with the notch on the yoke. So pin that notch in place. And then you can see the sleeve is slightly longer than the armhole, and that's where your gathering threads will come in, your basting threads. I stuck a pin right through mine. You're going to grab the two threads, you're just going to lightly pull to gather the sleeve. And I like to pull extra and then let it out so it's the same size as the armhole. Then I redistribute these gathers so they're even, and I pin the two layers together. So you can see on the inside, nice and smooth. Now we're going to do the same thing for the back. You can see the armhole is smaller than the sleeve cap. So you're going to grab your two basting stitches. We're just going to pull. And again, I pull so that the sleeve cap is smaller than the armhole, and then just release my gathering so they're the same. So you can see it's a little bit gathered, and then just distribute your gathering evenly and pin in place. And again, for this, I do centers out. Always centers out. It's the easiest way to make sure everything's going to go in nice and smooth. The easiest way to distribute fabric and ease. And there we go. We are now ready to sew. So we're going to head over to our machine and we're just going to sew, again using our 1/2 inch seam allowance, around the circumference of the armhole. So let's go do that now. All right, so again, you're gonna want your free arm free. If you don't have one, you can still do this, no problem, obviously. Align with a 1/2 inch. Oh, make sure you return your stitch length back to normal. That is something I always forget. So it's good that just happened because a reminder for all of us. So let's start that over. Do a little back tack. And then we're just going to sew around the sleeve. Remove your pins as you get to them and use your fingers to feel to make sure there are no lumps or bumps or tucks or any of that. You're going to just keep sewing around and reposition every so often, every few inches. Here's our basting threads. We'll get those out of the way. Reposition. And again, just make sure everything feels smooth. Nothing's out of place. As you work your way around. This will be easier when you have your sewing machine light on. Can't really see the marks on my plate. Back tack at the end. And head back over to the table. All right, so our sleeve is set and now we need to remove our basting stitches. But before we do that, I want you to just look around at the seam. Make sure you haven't caught any tucks. Everything's in its right spot. Because once you pull the basting stitches out, it's going to be harder to check that. So everything looks okay. So we're just going to pull those out. And make sure you remove both sides. All right, and then we need to finish the seam allowance. So I'm going to do that at the serger. Let's go do that now. So this serger doesn't have a free arm, so I find it's easiest to sew in a circle this way. So we have the body facing the machine. So just pop that under there. And start sewing. Again, you're going to need, oh, good Lord. Sorry about that. You're going to need to reposition every now and then, especially if there's a camera in your way. And just keep working your way around the armhole. Also, make sure you're using your fingers to see. You don't want to catch anything while you're serging. Cut any holes, none of that. Now here we are back at the beginning. And here you can see the finished sleeve. I personally don't really press my armholes. The sleeve cap, I feel like with this sort of blouse sleeve, you don't want it to be flat against the garment. A little bit of a sort of, not puff, but a little bit of height I think looks nice. So if I do anything, I just sort of give it some steam, not pressing on it. And then I'll go in and just do a light finger press. That way it has a little bit of definition, but it's not just flat against there. So now you're going to repeat those steps for the other armhole. Now that both your sleeves are inserted, it's time to hem. And this is really easy. We're just going to put your sleeve around your sleeve roll. And we're just going to turn up a 1/2 inch all the way around. So I like to turn up what is about 1/2 inch and then press. I find it easier to get an exact 1/2 inch if it's turned up already around the sleeve roll, even if it isn't perfect the first time. You might want to use a seam gauge if you are not able to visualize a 1/2 inch with your eyes. If you've been sewing long enough, you don't need to use a seam gauge. So fold that up once, and then we're going to fold it up one more time. Give that a press. I feel like you guys can probably hear my dog crying at the bottom of the stairs. She gets very sad when I film because she can't hang out with me. It's a lot. So now that that is pressed, we're going to head over to the machine and we're just going to edge stitch that down. All right, so here you can see my sleeve does not fit around my free arm. So the easiest thing for me in that case is to turn my sleeve right side out and sew it this way. So you're sewing from the inside. If you have an edge stitch foot handy, now's a great time to use that. But you're just gonna sew around. As close to the edge as you feel comfortable. Tack, tack, and clip your threads. All right, so that is it for our sleeve. You're going to now repeat these steps for the other side, and you're done. All right, so that is it for today. Our long sleeves are sewn up, and next we will be assembling the short cuffed sleeve, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our video lessons. Have a great day, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye.